In the interest of being objective, I would note that the succeeding Democratic Council that was in control for 2 years made no effort to return these things. But what they did not do, Mr. Mayor, was seek to further erode the public freedom of speech that existed when they entered office. Tonight, we see a proposal to limit public communications down from 8 minutes to just 3. The 8 minutes has been in place as a council policy for decades. I understand these meetings are long. Trust me. I'm probably the only person in the room that would rather be here at 11 o'clock than at home. But serving the public, it doesn't come at your convenience. That's not what being a public servant is about. It's about service and sacrifice. And being here to listen to the public and what they believe in is what matters most. There, unfortunately, in tonight's agenda seems to be a litany of control and suppression of freedom, which I just fundamentally believe is antithetical to who we are as a community. And it's not in alignment with the ideals that we have as a country. We see proposals to limit public communication. We see a proposal to determine who can and cannot speak at council meetings, language that changes from any public member to any Enfield resident, language that would preclude Enfield taxpayers who own property in this town but do not reside here from being able to come and speak their mind in this chamber. I think that's fundamentally wrong. I am not asking you tonight to vote with the Dems and to oppose these. I'm asking you tonight to vote for the ideals that the Republican Council in 2007 entered office with, to open government, engage the public, and push for more transparency. Because tonight, the proposals before us seem one of the biggest rollbacks of freedoms of speech and expression that have ever been deliberated by this body and in this chamber. And to me, that's fundamentally wrong, and it's not who we are. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I am a teacher at JFK Middle School, and I am the Enfield Teachers Association Vice President. I'm here tonight to comment on the agenda item about changing the current policy that allows non-resident town employees to speak at council meetings. As I have stated, I'm not a resident of Enfield. However, I lived 47 of my years in Enfield. My family on my mother's side came to Enfield for a better life in the mid-19th century. We've all captured the American dream. I've taught a few thousand students in my 19 years at JFK. I am proud of my Enfield roots. Do not tell me I don't have a stake in Enfield. Do not take away my freedom of public expression. This is an obvious power move by the Republican majority to limit public criticism of their political agenda. This change would contradict with American democratic values and verge on authoritarianism. Obviously, this change in policy would affect several hundred loyal and talented non-resident town employees. I understand that we don't pay property taxes here, but we teach your children, police your streets, put out your fires, collect your garbage, repair your roads, and help finance the future of this town, and much more. With a change in policy, you are discriminating against these individuals based on where they choose to live. You are also setting up a two-tier employee hierarchy. In addition, this is a slippery slope. Will the next change in policy be to bar non-residents from even attending these meetings? So let me simply ask why. What is the motivation for this proposal? It's not logistics. I've never seen a line out the door with non-resident employees who want to air their grievances. This has never been an impediment to meetings. Do you feel as though non-residents aren't as worthy, or that our concerns matter less? Why are you doing this? Remember, if you go forward with this change, you are choosing to silence literally hundreds of people who give their blood, sweat, and tears to this town. You would be infringing upon their constitutional rights of freedom of expression. A few weeks ago, Councillor Ludwig spoke about the importance of freedom in our country and how we need to protect it. I agree with you, Mike. That's why I'm here tonight. I urge you to keep this policy as it is.
I'm comfortable as a public speaker, and I can usually summarize something. If someone says 3 minutes, I can meet a 3-minute time limit. But the reduction in public participation from 8 minutes to 3 minutes overall seems extreme. This change will hurt many residents with unique and complex problems or who lack the experience in making public presentations, but also hurts your ability to understand some of the problems the town faces. I understand you're trying to be more efficient. As a compromise, I would suggest putting in a sign-up sheet, which will give you a rough idea about how many people would speak. And if you have an overwhelming number of people who are all talking on the same topic, then in the interest of moving things along, at that point, I would give the chair the discretion to be able to reduce the amount of time to maybe 3 minutes so everybody has a chance to speak instead of prolonging the meeting into the wee hours. That would probably be the only exception that I would consider for something like that. And I think it's a reasonable course to take. Regarding the changes, on a separate topic, regarding the changes to the minutes outlined in Section 3 of the Town Council's policy and procedures, the plan to cut back on the details and the narrative in the minutes deprives our community of a historical record. Honestly, this feels like a subtle method to reduce transparency of the town's business. YouTube is not a substitute. I understand what the PZZ said, but they were wrong about that. YouTube is a private company. What's to stop it from deciding, for instance, to erase videos older than 5 or 10 years, and then what are we left with? Moreover, the videos themselves are not searchable, and there's no easily accessible transcript. This change makes it more difficult for residents to learn about the town's business. If the reason for this proposed action is to unburden the town's staff, I suggest investigating AI-enabled tools, the summary and transcription tools. These tools are improving by the day. In summary on these 2 points, I think there's 2 major downsides here. They reduce the ability of residents to share their concerns with the town council while also working to keep them in the dark.
I'm here tonight as a resident of the town and as a member of the Enfield Community Advocates. I'm here tonight to address item 12I under the new business in the agenda. This is the proposal to limit the public comments to 3 minutes and to limit who may speak. I feel that it feels somewhat foolish to sit here at the second or third official town council meeting since the election, and this is one of the council's most pressing priorities. The campaign of this current council majority was run on a promise of more time for public engagement. At a previous meeting, it was stated the community spoke loud and clear, and we listened. It's good that you're listening to the community, but you need to listen to everyone in this community, even when you don't necessarily agree with what they're saying. To clarify, this means all of the public who have a stakeholder position here in the town of Enfield. Oxford Dictionary describes stakeholder as, quote, a person with an interest or concern in something. In this case, my concern is the town of Enfield. I have been an active and very outspoken teacher in Enfield for 10 years. For only 3 of these years, I have been an Enfield resident. Was my voice less important because I was not a resident of the town of Enfield? As others have mentioned, I have also taught hundreds of students that have come through this town. I hope to teach hundreds more. And as a teacher, I have heard many times during my employment for the town that, quote, all voices should be heard. All stakeholders have a right to be heard. This includes parents, students, teachers, and employees. So why change this now? Those of us who work directly for the town of Enfield or the Board of Education should have the right to come and share our experiences, our joys and our grievances and our concerns with this council, because many hours of our day and our nights are spent working for this town. We should be allowed, if we do not live in Enfield, to give our employment address and tell our connection to Enfield, so this council will understand why we are coming before them. The public deserves to know what others have already asked. What is the reason for this proposed change? I personally believe that Town Council and the Board of Education should be consistent. They should both allow a one-time speaking opportunity of 4 minutes. I would like to see the sign-up list return for the public to use so that speakers can be called in a fair and objective manner. An average experienced and prepared speaker can deliver 130 to 150 words per minute. And 130 words per minute, that's about 1.5 pages of double-spaced text. That might work for people like me who speak for a living, but an average resident who may feel nervous, who may have a speech challenge, or just simply speaks at a slower pace may not make their point clear and known in a time limit like that, 3 minutes. Doing some surface research in other towns in Connecticut, I discovered only a few have specific time limits on their public comments as we do here in Enfield. Those that do have town councils that have adopted somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes. For example, Windsor has a 3-minute limit. South Windsor has a 5-minute limit. There are no second round opportunities for these towns, and 4 minutes for public comment for Enfield Town Council and Board of Ed meetings feels like a fair compromise. If you're looking to keep the town council meetings at a reasonable length, which is perfectly understandable, perhaps we should consider limiting public comments to items that are proposed in the agenda, as is in the rules in the Rocky Hill Town Council meetings. In closing, everyone who lives in and works for the town of Enfield should have a say in these council matters. We can't expect stakeholders' voices are important to only mean when they agree with the majority. Mr. Ludwig asked us in October, does this make us more free? Ask yourself that. I'm serious. So I'm asking, does a time limit and does a specific residency limit make us more free? My answer is no. Thank you.
The suggested changes to the procedure and policy and procedure document, I don't know who came up with those suggested changes. Everything in red. I don't know whose idea any of it was. I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, but please get rid of all that. None of those changes are needed. Everything is perfect just the way it is. I'm sure it's worked. It's worked for many, many years. And as my husband always says, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And it makes us feel good. I have never talked so much as I have in the past year to you all. And even if you don't listen to me, and you don't change your decision, it makes me feel good. I feel like, okay, I'm a town resident, and maybe they don't listen, maybe they don't care, or they won't change their mind, but you're listening to me. It makes me feel good. And all the residents in the town should feel good. And even the people who are only paying taxes or whatever, they want to speak. I went to East Lyme Meadow, and guess what? They didn't question me for being in the town of Enfield when I spoke about my concerns in East Lyme Meadow at the planning board. So I'm totally opposed to all the changes you've made in red, every one of them. I didn't like any of those changes. I think they should just stay the way they are.
Just want to address the change to public communications. I think the 3 minutes, one and done, is too drastic of a change. If you could at least keep the 5 minute, one and done, and if there's time at the end for people to get up before 11 o'clock, that's fine. There's a lot of organizations that come to speak before the council that wouldn't be able to get their message across within the 3 minutes. And that's the reason they do it that way, is because they cannot all get on the agenda as special guests. You can only accommodate so many. So if you kept it 5 minutes, one and done, I'm a firm believer in get your message across in 5 minutes or you lose your audience. So
I'm going to go first. Normally I would extend public communication, but I'm doing this to prove a point. I don't support limiting public communication, and we discussed it in caucus, and that didn't come from our side. So we're going to find out tonight who wants to limit public communication. And I had a long conversation with you, Mr. Zanoni, explaining it to you, but yet you still come up here and try to make politics out of it. So I will turn it over to the Policy and Procedures Committee, where this came out of, because in our caucus, there was zero support to limit the time for public communication. Councilman Cressotti.
The other thing that the mayor did allude to in conversation, I am on the Policy and Procedure Committee, and I just want to make this perfectly clear in conversation with the mayor and with some other people prior to any of these policies that were put on the agenda. Just want to make it perfectly clear that I do not set the agenda. I don't put things on the agenda. I was never came into a meeting and, going into the policy and procedure meeting, getting the changes that were made. My suggestion, and I will make this perfectly clear, as being the mayor the last 2 years, I welcomed people coming up and discussing all of their comments. We gave people their 5 minutes. We gave them the 3 minutes. I even gave them second rounds. We've even changed venues when there was a lot of people so that everybody had their voice, so to say. There has been talk and there has been conversation in regard to people coming in and not discussing things that are on the agenda and taking their 8 minutes and doing that. I did state, and I will state it again today, that my recommendation was to have agenda items, people speak on agenda items the first round. The second round, the 3 minutes. The 3 minutes to be able to talk about whatever they needed to talk about. But I'm a proponent of people coming up and speaking about agenda items, not to just limit it to just 3 minutes. I will make that perfectly clear. I'm not going to be making this into a political thing or to make it say, this is what he wanted. Yeah, we had contentious meetings last year, but I gave everybody their voice. I let people speak that weren't residents of this town. I had people that spoke for other people, and I allowed it. So I'm not going to sit here today and think that the reason why these policy changes were because of what I stated. Absolutely not. That I am not going to put up with. I had no input to any of that, what was put in red. Yeah, I come to a meeting. I don't set the policy and procedures agenda. A discussion with somebody here on the council doesn't mean that it's going to be put on there. So I'm a little disappointed to hear that today. And if that was the case, you would have called me in to say, hey, what were the things that you want to change on here? My recommendation, my only recommendation is, your first time that you come up here, you want to talk about agenda items, talk about agenda items. Your second round that you want to have later on in the meeting, non-agenda items, so that we can discuss maybe things that could be put on the agenda for a meeting in the future, period. Thank you.
Councilman Ungary.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for coming out and speaking. I do want to say that I am on that Policy and Procedure Committee, and the topic to change the public communications showed up on our agenda. No one was more surprised than me, and I'm not sure where it came from or why it was even on there. I am here for public service, and a lot of my time is to listen to everyone, and I want to continue doing that, so I don't support the changes.
Thank you. Councilman Finger.
Thank you, Mayor. The bill. I don't mind. Matter of fact, I love having town employees or Board of Education employees go to the Board of Education meetings, going up and expressing things, but they should not be expressing any grievances or any type of contract issues at a meeting. In other words, I don't want my guys to come up here and talk to us about the contract or anything else. That's held within the union itself. That's in our bylaws, and grievances are handled through the Human Resources Department. Okay, just tell you right now. But I do agree with they should be able to come up here and express a feeling about. It's like I said earlier. They want to come up and thank the council for helping them out or whatever the case may be, or the Board of Education. Matters like that, not personnel matters. It's my personal thing on that. And I did it for 20 plus years. You know that.
Okay, moving on. Resolution regarding adopting the policy and procedures for Enfield Town Council meetings. Be it resolved that the Enfield Town Council does hereby adopt policy and procedures for the Enfield Town Council meetings dated January 8th, 2024. Date prepared 1/4/24. Date prepared by Town Manager's Office. And we have it in front of us. Deputy Mayor Pisner.
You need a second for a motion, right? We didn't get a second?
We didn't even get a motion, did we?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Motion.
I thought you just reread it.
Motion's made by Deputy Mayor Pisner, seconded by Councilman Ungary.
Okay. I want to make an amendment to this.
Before you do, can I?
Yep.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
Councilman Ludwig.
So I guess I want to keep this simple at this point, since since folks already commented in council communications on this. I say we throw everything out. And I don't need amendments. No, I don't agree with any of this. And I don't want to amend all this and go for another hour debating which amendment is. You all three spoke in council communications. You gave your point. I'm not saying anyone's right or anyone's wrong. This stays out. I want the policy to stay the way it is. Folks have a right to speak. We've always been, whether we agree or disagree in this town, we let people speak. That's the way it goes. That's a constitutional republic. You're allowed to speak. You're allowed to disagree. And I'm not making amendments and proving this. This is a terrible adjustment to a policy. I'm going to be, I don't know how it got in front of us, but sorry.
Cindy.
I am throwing it out,
You know
and
what?
that's it.
Well,
Yeah.
Cindy, you called me to support this. Bob, you brought this up on the floor, and then you're pushing it. They are making it like we put this up here. We didn't. And Cindy, you called me. Bob, I tried to call you 3 times to discuss this, and you wouldn't answer it. I second Mike's motion.
I like what Mike just said.
Good. So did I.
Good, be in agreement. No, just
No, we're keeping the original procedure and policies.
We don't need to do anything.
Nothing changes.
Yep. Sorry, I was saving us some time.
Good for you.
Wouldn't we just take this to a vote and vote it down?
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So the motion has been made by Councilor Ludwig and seconded.
But you need to withdraw your motion.
I didn't have any motion, wasn't me.
Okay.
I just-
You made a motion to throw the whole thing away.
Oh, yes, I made a motion. Oh, so I removed that motion to throw the whole thing away.
Not a
Sorry
motion.
about that. I should know that. I don't think there was a second.
All right, so he withdrew his motion. So instead of beating this to death, roll call, please, for the policy as written in front of us.
Councilor Finger.
Against.
Councilor Hendrickson.
Policy.
Against.
Councilor Ludwig.
Against.
Councilor Mangini.
Against.
Councilor Nasuda.
Against.
Mayor Nelson.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
Against.
Councilor Santinello left the room. Councilor Ungary.
Against.
Councilor Sakala.
Against.
And Councilor Cressotti.
Against.
0 members in favor and 10 against.